Well, welcome back to Lenzerheide in Switzerland. We're just waiting for, well, actually the start has already got underway. These are recorded pictures of the start of the men's 30-kilometre classic style. Only the second time a 30k classic has been involved in the Tour de Ski, and it could be absolutely crucial. I know it's only stage 2 of 8, but it could be crucial to get a good result here to set yourself up for the rest of the week. And of course, Sundby is the hot favourite after his performance yesterday in the sprint. He's looking very good. It's not quite so clear-cut as to see who's going to come out on top of the Tour leaderboard after today, Mike. But Ustigov's in a strong position. But there are a whole host of Norwegians, some very good Russian classic skiers who could challenge for the win today.
I think you're right, Patrick, and very much unlike the women's race, we'll see, I'm quite sure, a very close fight, almost all the way to the line. It certainly won't be an easy ride for Sundby. Will he go and try this brave attack as Johan did? I'm sure he might try it, but surely he can't get away with that early on. He may get away with it later in the race.
Well, highly unlikely, because he will have had a good look at the weather forecast, or his team will have had a good look at the weather forecast. They know it's going to snow at some stage. The temperature on the course hovering between 0 and +2, and for anyone who has skied in the classic style and has done their own waxing, you know that's about as bad as it gets. It's a nightmare, and so I expect to see some people drop out early but simply because the skis aren't prepared correctly.
I think so, as you said, terrible, difficult conditions. +2 degrees air temperature, hovering around 0 on the snow temperature, but another, as usual, nightmare for the technicians.
So the early pictures of the start. Well, this is it's a very steep part of the course. You can see that little bridge that has been developed. Absolutely no need to have it there, but they thought they needed to spice up the course, and that could prove crucial. A lot of people slipping in the women's 15-kilometre earlier on. No surprise to see Sundby starting to make his mark. It's going to be difficult, Mike, and the snow comes thick and fast. There's already been a little bit as we join the pictures live. 25 minutes on the clock already. Sundby out front, just behind him Alex Harvey of Canada. Good to see Harvey starting to make a name for himself, and it would be fantastic if Sundby doesn't win this year, which I think is highly likely. Harvey has a really good chance. He's put up a couple of good performances over the last few years.
He has. He's one of these athletes who this 10-day stage race with 8 days of racing, Alex Harvey always seems to lift himself for this, and I think early on it's what was it, 5.8 kilometers, he stamped his authority by taking all of the bonus 15 seconds. Huge effort to attack up this climb to get the bonus seconds. That was at 5.8, and they'll be picking up another 3 options of those bonus 15, 12, 10, all the way down to 1 second for the first 10 athletes.
Sundby has made a break, and as is his way, he has done it on the hardest part of the course. That's just about standard, isn't it? For those in really good shape, Mike, there's no point trying to get away on the downhill. On the flats, you're wasting your time. Wait for the steepest, cruelest uphill. That's where you can make a gain.
And that's where this season Sundby is head and shoulders above the rest of the world. Alex Harvey has gone with him, and I think you've got to try and stay with him. You've got to try and use him to drag you up the hill. The rest of the field trying to close the gap quickly. I'm not sure they can.
Well, the word cross-country skiing implying that you do ups, downs, flats, of course you do, and some technical bits, but you might be interested to know that you spend between 70 and 75% of your time going uphill because they're that much slower, and on a course like this, those stats will be closer to the 75 than the 70. And
we look at the total climb, Patrick, for the men here. It's 1,165 metres within their 30-kilometre distance race, and 8 times around this 3.7-kilometre track. It's a mental game as well as a hard physical game.
So a little bit lower than the gain you make if you climb Ben Nevis, but I can think of a few mountains just over the 1,000-metre mark.
Well, that's right. And if you if you have an empty bottle of water at the top of Ben Nevis, close similar height to this, you close the lid at the top. You have one at sea level, you take it up the top, and it crushes as you go higher up. Much less oxygen up here, about 14% less than at sea level.
So that will suit those who live at altitude, and we're expecting to see Dario Colonia do something special today in front of his pretty much his home crowd. He comes from Valmoster, actually, which is what, 45-minute drive down the road. And Dario Colonia in black, as all the Swiss team are, but he is wearing bib number 6. Only finished 5th in the Tour last year, but he's the most successful male athlete in terms of the Tour de Ski, and you can never rule him out, although he still hasn't shown the sort of form that we saw from him in the 2014 Olympics.
Well, that's right. I don't think he's ever come back from that ankle injury he had, 3-4 months before the Olympics, a very bad ankle injury, and it was amazing that in those 4 months he got strong enough, he healed quickly enough to win that gold medal at the Olympics.
Yeah, what a cracking example, because just about every full-time athlete goes through problems with injuries, but to come straight out of his injury, he had a couple of warm-up World Cups where he wasn't really trying to do much, but he made an impression, and he certainly made his presence felt, and then off he went to Sochi and picked up 2 golds.
Absolutely incredible, and I'd love to see him back at his best. I think we saw more from him in the sprints yesterday here at home for him. 6th position, he showed good form and a little bit of his old flair, spark coming back.
Yeah, he could have done a whole lot better if he hadn't had a fall on the first lap of the final yesterday. Always at this stage of the Tour, Mike, and the Tour in particular, where they have a day of racing followed by a day of distance, this is extreme. A short, sharp sprint, a tough sprint, followed by a 30-kilometre. I don't think we've had that before in the Tour, even going back to 2007.
The only upside for the athletes is that at day 2 they've still got stored energy supplies, reserves, if you like. But I think I like it. I like the way it's working. It's making a very, very intense race, because Sundby at the front wants to pick up as many of those bonus seconds throughout the whole course. That's why he's leading. And you know what, as this race unfolds, Paddy, it's going to become those who are trying to stay with this very fast early pace. I think we'll see a good number of them suffering later.
So Sundby controlling the race as we expected. The women's race pretty much a Norwegian affair. And just in case you haven't seen it, I won't tell you the results, but certainly worth catching up with later on. Although I suspect that this men's race is going to be a little bit more exciting, because there are certainly a group of, 10, 12 good classic skiers who could challenge for the win. It's not all going to be about Sundby. So 30 minutes on the clock already. 30 kilometres the distance of this race. Well, welcome back to Lenzerheide. This is the scene, over 13 kilometres completed now. 3 laps, or a 3.75 kilometre lap being used for this race due to the snow shortages. And when the cameras pan out, you will see that there's virtually no snow on the hillside. There you go. And all the snow brought in for these races. They've got to survive 3 days of racing. Actually, the sprint conditions yesterday, Mike, were very quick, very good, and we didn't have any issues with the women's race this morning. So far, the men's tracks seem to be holding out. There was forecast, well, they weren't quite sure whether it was going to be rain or snow, with the temperature hovering around 0.
Well, yes, and we did see that very wet snow as the bonus, the second of the 4 on-track bonus sprints begin to unfold. Where's Alex Harvey, 3rd place?
Harvey could do with another 15-second bonus. He won the first one and just stole 5 seconds away from Martin Jonsrud Sundby, who leads wearing bib number 4, the black bib of Ustiagov, who made such an impression yesterday. Now, he's a man, Mike. His technique of racing in the sprints is 100% from gun to finish line. Surely he's going to have a real issue coping with the 30 kilometres.
I think so. He may stay with it for a while, and there's his teammate De Fabiani, so good in the classic style. But he'll stay with it for some time, but I think he will suffer later.
There's Dario Colonia, still looking okay, but he doesn't look as light on his feet as Sundby. And we had the pleasure of having Posey Musgrave in the commentary box for the women's race earlier on today, and she said the first thing that strikes you about Sundby is how small, how slight he is.
athletes never look that way on telly, and he's certainly got great muscle form, and that's why on this hill he dominates, and he can break away from the pack up this hill. That much lighter figure that he has.
Well, that's a big gap opening up back to Dario Colonia, some 40 meters between De Fabiani, who's wearing the blue bib. That's the leader of the Under-23 World Cup. So he's having a very good season. Lots of potential for him as we have a look at the top 10 at the moment. Sumbi, Ruota and Harvey in there in the top 3. Tonseth looking good for a podium if he can keep pace with a leading trio. And then De Fabiani, and then a little bit of a gap back to Dario Colonia. So 3 Norwegians, 1 Canadian. Alex Harvey wearing 28. And De Fabiani in the blue bib just behind him. The colour of the bibs, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but the Tour leader wearing red, the Under-23 leader wearing blue, and the Sprint Classic leader wearing the black bib.
That's right, Ustikov wearing the black bib. De Fabiani, obviously, Pellegrino winning the sprints yesterday. And there's his teammate up in 5th position at the moment.
Quick drink stop and over a 30-kilometre, that's sensible. Always tough to find a good venue for the drinks. Dario Colonia, well, you can see the frustration in his body language. He should never have stumbled that. And actually, the drink was a little bit too late. He was going at something like 25 kilometres an hour. Had the drinks been just after the summit of the hill, Colonia would have had no problem picking it up.
The trouble, just over the top, you're gasping for air, though. It is difficult to drink, but then you hold it for a short while, recover a tiny little bit. Really bad news to miss one of your planned drinks. Sundby's had enough at the front. Yeah,
you want a little bit of speed so you don't have to, don't lose ground. Number 3 coming through, that's Finnhagen Krok. And it looks as though there's a little bit of a break, and that's not uncommon. After the drink, if some people are taking on the fluid, you just lose a little bit of your capacity, and if someone makes a break, it can be incredibly frustrating. And I wonder whether that's what Sumbi has been thinking.
And day 2, it's such an early part of the Tour de Ski, and that's why we're seeing the intensity at the front to pick up the bonus seconds, but the rest of the field are taking themselves to a very, very high level to try and stay with this incredible pace.
Krok skiing well. Harvey still in there, and is that Ustikov who's joined them at the front? Russians certainly, I think, fair to say, over the last 3 or 4 years, the Russians have been better at the classic style. Tonseth picking up fluid. Finnhagen Krok not requiring any at this stage. Number 43, you might just have seen, that was Maxim Viligjanin, who was 10th in the Tour de Ski last year and will be wanting to improve on that position. So 15 kilometres completed, 37:49 the time. We are looking for a winning time of around an hour 15. A lot will depend. If the snow arrives, we're going to be an hour 16, hour 17. But if it doesn't come, then they should be able to beat that 1:15.
We'd expect so. It's going to get, if anything, a little colder if it doesn't snow, and as it is, the track's pretty glazed. I've just noticed further back down the track, Patrick, Pellegrino wearing bib 1, or the leader of the Tour into the day. He's in 51st position, 2 minutes 2 seconds behind.
Well, there are the virtual standings in the Tour de Ski, and Sundby is already up into pole position, 19 seconds clear of his nearest rival. He could extend that to over 30 seconds if he picks up all the bonuses today. 2 Russians. 43 is Viligjanin, Beshmetnik 64. And I'm not sure they are enjoying that change of pace at the front, but we've got a few games going on, Mike. We had a very quick kilometre and a half, and it seems to have settled down now.
It has a little. Peter Northug appeared to be struggling, suffering earlier on in the race with the crazy pace it started, but he's now back in this top 15, so comfortable, safe, and probably will try and stay with this and then, of course, beat them when it comes to the final 500.
Petter Northug wearing 7. There he is, second from back in that group with his great rival, Dario Colonia. Not sure what sort of a social relationship those two have.
I think it's respect for each other over the years. Colonia would often come out on top in their head-to-heads.
Yeah, the complete opposite, aren't they? Petter Northug, a man who wins all his races with the sprint, and Dario Colonia, who wins it with a long, hard grind. Besmertnik trying to bridge the gap between the chasing group and the leading group, and it looks as though he's just about made it. He could do with being in touch before he goes over the top of this climb. 15.8 kilometres completed, 40.13 the time at the moment. Now, just looking for big names who've dropped off the leaderboard. Maurice Magnificat, slightly surprised to see the Frenchman 15-16 seconds behind. Villig Jean in there in 19th position at the moment, just behind Deerhaug of Norway. 49 going through. Hans Christer Holland, who has certainly made a name for himself this year. He's arrived on the world scene.
He certainly has. He in classic and freestyle, just about as good in both. Surprise for me, a little surprise, Legkov, Alexander Legkov, 20th position, 24 seconds behind. I thought he might be up here trying to get advantage from Besmertnik, and of course Ushtigov already in this lead group. Quite strange, as soon as Sundby backs off, there's another Norwegian to help him up the front, Tunseth.
What is it, 12 athletes in that leading group, with Besmertnik still at the back. I think that's Dario Colonia alongside him. Colonia having to fight really hard to stay with the pace. And I'm not convinced that Colonia's got a decent pair of skis on his feet, Mike, because he seems to be losing time on the run-outs from the downhill, which would suggest he's not as quick downhill and he's not getting the ski speed across the flat. That really is about the worst news the Swiss fans could have.
If that is the case, and the Swiss fans will have picked up on that as well, then it really does make this 30 kilometres what, 3-4% more difficult, which is hard to live with.
He's climbing okay, and that's probably because he's got a decent amount of grip on his skis. There he is, Dario Colonia, wearing 6 on the far side. Besmertnik probably just getting a breather after his efforts of bridging the gap, and Didrik Tonseth
And you mentioned a breather. The next bonus opportunity for those precious bonus seconds comes up at 20.8 kilometres, and I think that's why the race is just taking a little bit of a breather, maybe giving those who couldn't live with the early pace a chance to try and claw them back, if it's possible. I don't think Sundby is going to let this go, let the pace drop off. It's all his advantage to keep it painful, keep it fast.
Didrik Tonseth, 11th in the Distance World Cup standings. He's no slouch on the longer races, and Martin Jonsrud Sundby looking incredibly comfortable just behind him. What a great run from De Fabiani of Italy, who's in 3rd position at the moment. Number 3 going through, that is Kroc, and then the back of the leading group, and it looks as though the chasers are starting to close it down again. Drifted away to a margin of just over 10 seconds. Maurice Magnificat is the man who's doing the work there. Alexander Legkov was expecting to see him climb up. He's in the top 10 of the world distance standings. Just to explain, Mike, we have the world overall, which includes distance and sprint. There's the sprint standings, the distance standings, and for today, the distance standings are a better indication of how they're likely to do than the overall.
Yeah, very much so. You get the athletes who have their specialities. You get few who are very good at sprint. Petter Northug springs to mind, sprint and distance, and the really long distance up to 50 kilometres. But De Fabiani, we can see him still in 3rd place. He is an out-and-out specialist in classic. We don't often see that. Normally it's the other way around. You're an out-and-out specialist in freestyle.
Well, can you think of any other sport where the same athlete has won the shortest event and the longest event?
I can't.
Petter Northug, World Championships last year, won the sprint in incredible fashion. Now that's a bad move from Besmertnik. one of your favourites for today.
I thought he's lost a little bit of momentum there. You lose a little bit of focus and annoyed with yourself, so you tighten up. So he's blown away 5-6 seconds in that stumble.
Yeah, I think the bookies will be glad to see that, because they had him at 33 to 1 to win, and tucked in with the leading group. He had every chance of walking away with a win, but those 50-60 metres he's lost could be very difficult to claw back. Here he is at the back of the group, 40 metres adrift of Dario Colonia.
And then you lose your momentum. You need big energy, big momentum over the top of each hill to carry that energy up the next hill.
Tonseth leading, Sunbi second, De Fabiani third, as it has been for the last 5 or 6 minutes, approaching 17.7.
So they're beginning to pick up again, aren't they, for the next sprint? Although it's still, what, 3 kilometres away. They're just trying to keep the numbers down.
Yeah, they should get there at around 53 minutes, so there's a while to go. Start your sprint now, and you could pay a heavy price later in the race. It does make it tough, doesn't it, Mike? A 30k, the quickest way from A to B is at a steady pace or a steady work rate. Put these intermediate sprints in, and you've got to push your pulse up to close to max, and then hope you can maintain the pace once it's over.
It's a shocker, and those who have gone early to try and stay with the pace are beginning to suffer. They really are. It's only the strong, the really strong and technically good, like Sunbi, Tonseth, who can live with this.
Well, a little quiet spell might be an opportunity to pick up on the progress of the 2 British athletes racing today. Andrew Young, a bit of misfortune yesterday, got his hand caught and his pole caught in some rope on the side of the track, which ended his efforts in the sprint rather abruptly, having qualified in 2nd position. It was an unbelievable effort from Andrew Young. He's shown that he is good. Certainly a case of horses for courses. The last couple of sprint courses have been right down his street, and yesterday was no different. But I think if he's built confidence, he looked better on the line, he looked good on the tracks. Just again, a bit of bad luck. Andrew Musgrave also racing today, and he's got to try and make ground after a disappointing sprint yesterday.
Yes, he was a little disappointed. Well, at the moment, last check, Andrew Musgrave 55th, 2:35 behind. I think he'll be a little disappointed with that. And Andrew Young,
he may well not have started. He was hoping to, but the injuries. He did start. No sign of him in the results sheet at the moment, so that shoulder may well be playing up. 49 minutes of skiing, and it's bad news for the Swiss supporters. Dario Colonia dropping off the pace. Good news for the Norwegians. Martin Jonsrud Sundby has made his mark up through 19.5. Good bonus seconds coming his way at the next intermediate. Sundby comfortably ahead of Ustiakov, who's having a fantastic run there, and Rode of Norway in the top 3. Polteranen of Kazakhstan, always a good classic specialist. Harvey still there, just 11 seconds off the pace. Tonseth, Belov, De Fabiani, the youngster from Italy, in 8th, and Petter Northug. He's been looking around, he's been working out his tactics. What's he going to do over the next 10.5 kilometres? There's Colonia now, 28.8 behind, and I think he'll be having a stiff word with the Swiss technician. I have no doubt in my mind that he has a dreadful pair of skis on his feet.
They don't seem to be working well either way. I saw him slipping on the uphill climb. They don't seem to be gliding fast, so all in all, a nightmare. He did so well to stay with the pace for, what, 35, 40 minutes.
Now, Mike, do you think Sundby has made a run for home, or is he just trying to secure the bonus points?
I think he's going for those. He knows he's not the best sprinter, so he's wanting to anchor today as many of those bonus 15 seconds, and the next chance comes up in 1 kilometre, and I think he'll slow it down again until the next bonus points at 28.3.
Well, that's a little close to home to be playing games at that stage, so he might well decide go for 28.3 and keep it going all the way through the 30.
He's one of the few athletes, the only athlete in this field who could really live with that.
But he's got a decent lead, 50 metres or so, an uphill section coming where he can extend that. I think he might well go for it from here, which means 10 kilometres of lonely skiing.
It's unusual, isn't it? I don't think we certainly haven't seen in the Tour de Ski anybody who has been able to. Lukas Bauer did it once in a 20-kilometre classic, got away from the field by about 8 seconds, 10 seconds. It's so difficult to break the field. We're seeing something quite unusual now when Sundby can do that. At the press of a button, he seems to have this extra gear. He can get rid of them all.
Yeah, he's raced a very clever race, hasn't he? He pushed the pace early on, which broke the leading group down to 12, and then he just tucked in behind his teammate Tonseth, let him do the work for 5-6 kilometres, and then at 17-18k just wound it up to ensure that he got maximum bonuses going through the last bonus split. There he is on his own, and chasing at the moment, number 34, that's Alexei Poltaranin of Kazakhstan. 8th in the Tour last year. Has he got the potential to win it? I'm not sure he has, up against this man.
Just so organised, there's no weakness in his technique whatsoever. He's going to pick up those precious 15-second bonus seconds. Poltarainen won, if I remember right, 2 years ago. It was a 15-kilometre classic, and he won by 0.8 of a second, so he's got a good sprint, a good finish pace on him as well, Poltarainen. Petter Northug's desperately coming up and up and up to pick up as many of these bonus seconds.
Petter Northug, has he got the second best or the third best record in the Tour de Ski? You could argue that Sundby, with 2 successive victories, is now the second most successful, and Northug's pushed down what he had 4 times in second place, multiple podium finishes, but he's always been undone by the Alpe Chemise, which is not up his street. It's far too intense.
Good to see him fighting. There he is, bib 7. Northug, he's going to pick up 12 bonus seconds if he stays in second place.
Sundby still very upright in his stance, beautifully balanced, and the only thing giving away the fact that he's working so hard is the gap opening up in his beard as he gasps for more oxygen. And at this altitude, no surprise that they're finding it a little bit tough.
Look what he's doing to the rest of the field, breaking them by 11 seconds here. I think you might be right. If he's got a big enough cushion from here on in with, what, just 9.2 kilometres to go, he might well try and keep that lead.
So Colonia has gone out of that leading group as Mertnik has gone, so that should mean we've got 10 going through. We'll just confirm that, make sure no one else has joined that leading group going through 20.8. And the margin between 10 and 11, so Krok back to best Mertnik, is now some 14 seconds. There are the leading 10, and the winner is certainly coming from this group. Look at the way he climbs these hills. Most people come to a sort of stuttering run on the skis, but even at this gradient, he's managed to get a significant amount of glide on the ski.
Love his technique. Although he's not a tall athlete, not a big athlete at all, he covers so many meters per stride, and the very upright stance, he's getting great amount of work through his arms to help that glide on each of his strides.
Well, he's reading the situation, not just one glance over his shoulder. He's having a very good look, and he's probably trying to work out where Petter Northug is, and he might have been a bit disappointed to find that his teammate is in third, because he knows that there is a man that can undo him in the last, what, 2-3 kilometres. Northug capable of winding it up in the closing stages.
That's so true, and I wonder what was going through his mind there. The brain would have been taking in all the information. 12 seconds lead ahead of everyone, 9.2 kilometres to go. It's a brave strategy to try and keep hold of that. Surely the pack will try and close him down.
Now, will Dario Colonia get his drink this time round? That certainly upset him when he dropped the first one. Staying hydrated, so important, but particularly in a tour stage where you race day after day. 3 days of racing, actually, at the start of this tour here at Lenzerheide, and then they have a day off. Well, he gets the drink, but he spills half of it on his head.
I don't think that's, or his backup need to be jogging alongside. Most of that drink spilt out, but hey, they made that plan last night. The best possible places to take on board drink, and they decided on that place. Andrew Young just checking further back, still well and truly in the race, 2:51 behind at my last check in 61st position.
Well, that's a good effort from Andrew Young. Well, Sundby is not quite home and dry, coming up towards the hour marker. Remember, our predicted time for the win was an hour 15 if it didn't snow again, but Sumbi looks to have wound it up over the last 4 or 5 kilometers, so we may go under that 1:15, but I don't think we're going to get down as far as 1:30.
I don't think so. There's Roy Young there for drinks and information for Andrew Musgrave and Andrew Young, and Callum Smith, the third Brit in the field.
Polteranen still leading the chase. Dario Colonia back in the third group now with number 37. That was Maurice Magnifica, who's an excellent skier. Magnifica fourth in the distance standings this year, so he's having a good season, but hasn't been able to live with the pace up front. Andrew Musgrave, Mike, a really encouraging start to the season, but fading a little, 1 or 2 issues. He's had a few illness problems, lost a bit of time over the summer, so things not all going his way at the moment.
Not really, and he had an issue with his the strap on his ski pole handle yesterday. It came off, and he only missed that cut off to the top 30 by a second, and those precious mistakes are costly. But I think we'll see him back strong, without a doubt. Still well and truly in the race today.
Well, this must be tough for Dario Colonia. He's used to winning, and he now knows that he is not going to win today. He's just fighting for his position in the Tour de Ski. It's been a while since he stood on top of the Tour de Ski podium, but he's still the most successful skier, with 3 victories to his name, as this man is likely to have in a week's time. So through they come, and the atmosphere certainly building here in Les Isles. It's been an excellent weekend so far, and another day of racing tomorrow. Slightly shorter pursuit races. They'll be glad of the reduced distance, but there will already be some tired limbs after their brief Christmas break. Well, here's the climb. It looks relatively easy on your TV screens, but it brings most normal humans to a grinding halt. Not this man.
And I think also with the lack of snow, and they've done such an amazing job to provide this 3.75 deep snow kilometer track, but it's a bit of a mind game when you're going over those same hills time and time again, 8 times in total. You know the course inside out. Just further down, Patrick, 55th position. Pellegrino, who was leader of the Tour after the sprints, in 55th position, 4 minutes 2 seconds behind. And
now he's in danger of being pulled out of the race if he's not going to get lapped today. 1 or 2 athletes have already been lapped. They've been pulled off the race course, so that's the end of their tour. Everyone else has to stay within 15% of the leader to keep their name on the start sheet for the next day.
Andrew Young, 66th position, 4:32 behind, having the second fastest time yesterday overall in the qualifying and the sprints. It was outstanding. I think that shows the pace. He's only travelling at 5.44 kilometres an hour up this rise, and the average is going to be what, 24, 26 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, I don't know how much we trust that. Last time it was 12.4, and he's not going any slower than he was last time round. That may just be a technical issue, but when you think that they're doing 30 kilometres in just over the hour, it's around a 25, 26 kilometre pace that they normally set on this sort of a race. Conditions aren't particularly quick today. The snow is damp, tricky clister conditions, and Sumbi gets the perfect opportunity to assess the progress of the opposition, and here they come. Norteg in there looking good, wearing 70s, looks to be cruising at the moment, and I just wonder whether this group have decided that they're not going to win, so they might as well save something for the sprint that is inevitably going to follow.
What's surprising me a little though, Patrick, is tomorrow, every day is so important at the Tour de Ski, and with tomorrow, it's a pursuit. So Martin Jonsrud Sundby is going to start first by a very long way. I'm amazed they're not trying to manage this gap and trying to pull him back, because he'll be setting off over the 10 kilometers on these tracks, 15 kilometers tomorrow in the freestyle technique, and he will start with the margin that he leads by the end of today. With
pretty much maximum bonuses. Alex Harvey, the only person who pipped Sundby on the very first bonus point, but since then he's picked up maximum on all the occasions, and he's going to get another 15 seconds for finishing in first place, unless something drastic happens in the closing stages. Under 5 kilometers to go. Sundby, the comfortable leader, 1:03.41 on the clock, still looking at around a 1:15 finish time, maybe slightly over that marker now. 51 is Sürötter. Just behind him, Yevgeny Belov, third in the Tour last year, and he may well end up today in third position after 2 stages.
And 3 Norwegians in the top 4 at the moment. Alex Harvey, I'm surprised he hasn't tried to pick the pace up. Clearly he's on his absolute limit. Polterrein, and he knows this track well. He's won here before 2 years ago in Classic. And Peder Northug, just always as usual, keeping as efficient as he can in that chasing group, or at the end of the chasing group. De Fabiani beginning to suffer now, 50 seconds behind 10th position.
8 races in 10 days. They get the 4th of January off, so Monday they'll be off, and they're off on the 7th as well. But then the final 3 days, Toblach, followed by 2 races in Val di Fiemme. That's going to be another tough period. Mors Magnifica now 1:18 behind. Dario Cologna, who was in the leading group of 12 up until the end of the, well, about 1.5 laps. Around 15 kilometers, he started to drop off the pace.
Skiing alongside Cologna, I'm a little surprised that Holland, Hans-Christer Holland, bib 49, surprised he's off the pace. I thought he'd be well and truly at the sharp end of the action.
It'll be interesting to chat to some of the skiers after this. What we could do with Mike is a speed gun on the downhills, just to find out whose skis are going well, or even the flats, just to find out which teams have done well in the waxing huts this morning. I don't think Sundby has an issue.
He doesn't. That's he's just passing, lapping Jan Antolitz, and he'll be pulled out, I'm quite sure, shortly.
Norway looking to whitewash the podium yet again, and with the out-and-out leader plus 3 men in this chasing group of what, 7? Or is it 6? It's down to 6. And Northug at the back. There's every chance they could get the 1, 2, 3 again. Sürötter is the man leading the way at the moment, constantly changing tracks. Alex Harvey actually just behind him, and then Didrik Tonseth, who did a lot of donkey work early on. Took the wind from Martin Jonsrud Sundby on the first couple of laps. And there is Peder Northug at the back, the man still with a dynamite finish. But each year it gets harder and harder to make the same impression.
What's surprising me, Patrick, is that with only 3.15 kilometers to go, is that the pack are not trying to bring this back. It's a 39-second lead, and tomorrow is so important. But Jonsrud Sundby is still attacking, keeping the pace strong, and of course looking to pick up his next 15-second bonus at 28.3 kilometers.
So the chasing group now 40 seconds behind. and you can add another 20 seconds or so in terms of bonuses, so there could well be a margin of a minute after just 2 stages of the Tour, and that's extraordinary. If you think back to last year, the Tour finishes, the top 3 were only separated by 51 seconds. Sumbi ahead of Nortuk, who was 34.5 behind. If we go back to the previous Tour, which of course Sumbi won as well, he had a margin of 36 seconds over Jespersen. He was 1:49 ahead of Northug on that occasion. So to come through to the end of the second day of the Tour and have a margin of 60 seconds or so is quite remarkable.
We simply haven't seen anything quite like it. It's of course we had the sprints. We've only had that once before in the 10-year history of the Tour de Ski. I liked it. I liked the fact that we had the sprints yesterday and then a huge distance race today, and a lot can change over a 10-day period.
Well, I hope for the sake of the locals that these ski tracks survive more than a couple of days. It's a massive investment, not only in terms of finance, but also time and the effort they've put in to get these tracks laid out for this series of 3 races. I hope the local ski club get plenty of use out of them before they vanish.
And they're very lucky. It's cold enough in the evenings to create this massive snow pile. To the machine, the man-made snow, unlike Oberstdorf, next venue, they're struggling right now to lay the track down or even to make the snow.
Then again, having said that, Mike, these aren't the sort of tracks that you go for a jolly on.
You need to be a serious athlete.
You need to be in very good shape indeed to enjoy a ski around here. But there are some exciting downhills. You can take your time on the uphill and then fly down some technical downhills. 31 looking to suffer a bit, Emil Iversen. Just trying to cling on to that chasing group, but here comes the leading group, and Martin Jonsrud Sundby on his final lap now, and he's just picking up tail ender after tail ender, going past Pavel Klitz as though he's standing still, and he's pulled out as a result. Well, he got to the last lap. Sundby's doing a lot of damage at the front and the back of the Tour.
Quite amazing, quite a phenomenal performance this, and I like his strategy. He's set out his stall early by really hurting the rest of the pack, and he knew that they would break sooner or later, and that he is still maintaining his lead but extending it as well. Every kilometre he's knocking off another 5 or 6 seconds.
Just trying to think if that technique has changed all the way around. I don't think it has, hardly. Are there any signs that he's suffering? Perhaps he's not standing quite as tall as he did the first couple of times round.
And look at it, his mouth's wide open like a goldfish, sucking in all this, well, the lack of oxygen up here, and he's a little slower tempo going up for this final time.
I think he'd rather be compared to a basking shark who can...
Oh, he's outstanding. Has he maybe, you know, let's look at what could happen. Has he drained himself too much today with 15 kilometres around these tracks tomorrow in freestyle?
Well, this is where the intrigue is, isn't it? The second group of 6, and there is no chance of them catching the race leader now. But who is going to make their way onto the podium, pick up some financial gains, pick up some World Cup points, of course, and of course improve their position in the Tour de Ski? Is it going to be number 51 who leads at the moment, Sjörote? He's done a lot of donkey work, and the snow has come as forecast, but it's too late to have any effect on the race leaders. I was thinking when we saw the forecast, Mike, that no one would be able to get away simply because there'd be too much fresh snow, but Sundby has struck lucky.
He has. The snow did fall earlier, but they were all, there was certainly a big pack at the time. It's just starting, so I think you're right. The weather, as we thought, might come on stronger than it is at the moment. Who's going to win this duel here?
Well, I think you're a brave man to bet against lucky number 7, Petter Northug. Excellent finisher, we know all about that. Didrik Tonseth seems to be staying with the pace. Alex Harvey starting to drop off. That's bad news for the Canadian, but maybe he feels...
exhausted.
Well, I was trying to put a positive spin on it, but I can't think of anything good to say about dropping off at this stage of the race. Every single second could prove crucial come the end of the Tour.
And you know, Alex Harvey, such a good athlete, but those early, he took the first 15 seconds up here, you know, those early sprints, I think you said it makes you, the payback is later in the race, and that's what he's going through right now.
Now, can you think of any other athlete other than Sumbi who believes he's going to win the Tour this year? Or could win it?
Do you know what? I think that the rest of the field, after what they've seen today, will all be thinking that it is all about Sumbi this year. How can we beat him? And I'm not sure they can on his current form and the form he's shown all season.
De Fabiani, who was in the group of 12, he was still in the group of 10, but a lap after Sumbi wound the pace up, he found he dropped away along with Dario Cologna, but it's been a good effort from the youngster. He's doing well. Now, big move coming in, and it looks as though Didrik Tonseth is going to try and get away from Petter Northug early, but he needs more than the 6-metre gap. He's got to get 60 metres clear to evade the challenge of the sprint that's likely to come from Petter Northug. Even after double poling the majority of this race, he will still find something special in those arms. So Tonseth, Northug, followed by Rota. It's going to be not just a Norwegian 1-2-3, a Norwegian 1-2-3-4, just to better the women.
Quite amazing. Belov there, he's really dug deep to try and stay with this. Polterainen the same. They tried to stay with it early, struggling a little now.
So those are the last slot of bonus seconds. Another 5-second advantage to Sundby. Northug making sure that he doesn't lose out too much. But even now you feel Northug is just looking to add to those 4 second places that he's already got in the Tour de Ski. Sundby 51.5, 53.3 kilometers an hour as he heads down into the stadium. Just a reminder, these skis just 4 centimeters wide, attached to the boot by a thin bar at the front. It's not the same as alpine skiing, but his control still perfect.
So rare that we see a display like this, Patrick. It's a mass start. All 91 of them started together, and he's completely destroyed the field here.
Well, here they go, over 50 kilometers an hour, the chasing group as well, as Sundby comes in towards the finish. He still puts on a burst, doesn't want any of that precious lead to be eaten away. That is how to do it. 1:14.48. We were 12 seconds out, not bad as a prediction for the winning time. But Sundby, class of his own. This is where we're going to see some fireworks. 3 Norwegians fighting for second, third and fourth at the moment. Polterainen too far behind. When will Northug press those the afterburners? There he goes on the far side, and Northug goes from third into second. Second place or third place overall is Tonseth at the moment, and I don't think Rota is going to be able to get in on this one. So Northug runner-up, Tonseth third, Rota 4 to make it Norway 1-2-3-4. Polterainen, great race from Polterainen. Once again, he shows us that he is a world-class classic skier. And Belov, well, we know all about him. 6th place for Belov from Russia, and Alex Harvey just didn't have enough for that final 3.75 lap. 54.4 off the pace, and not a bad run from the man who wore the black bib. Ustikov of Russia, outstanding in the sprint yesterday, and another great race from him.
Yeah, very much so. Just again, that early sting taken out of his performance. Just didn't have it in the last 4 kilometers.
Finnhagen Krok across the line, 64 just coming down is Bess Mertnik, who was fancied to do well up against De Fabiani, and I think Bess Mertnik might just have got it. Dario Cologna wearing 6 in the black suit, coming up in the middle. The crowd right behind their man. Can Cologna hold on to 12th place? He can. Ledkov challenging him all the way, but Cologna has enough to hold on to that position. Good points for him, but he really would have wanted to be up in that chasing group. Maurice Magnificat, 1:49. He won't be happy with that.
Well, Magnificat, it was good. He stayed with it a long time. It's not his forte. The classic is not his favoured of the 2 disciplines.
Strong finish coming in from Matti Häkkinen. Only 2:18 off the pace of the leaders. I'm not sure. I think Andrew Musgrave at the moment, last time we looked, he was just about 3 minutes off the pace of the race leaders. Top 30 getting World Cup points. So Dario Colonia not on his very best form. Salvadori from Italy across the line. Number 17 is Andrei Larkov, who had a good sprint race yesterday. He's backed it up with a solid race today. 62 coming up the finishing straight. That's Erik Bjornsson, whose sister Sadie was racing earlier on. And he's going to hold off the challenge from Ivo Niskanen as well. And then Bernhard Tritcher, the best of the Austrians, I think. Tritcher down in 32nd position. Well, there's your podium. Nortug on the Tour de Ski podium for the 30th time. He's also the man who's won the most classic races with 4 victories. This is only the 22nd distance classic race in the Tour de Ski's history, this being the 10th year, of course. And just in case you need reminding, the winners of the Tour so far, as we watch the finish coming in from Emil Jonsson up against Jauhajärvi on the left of the screen, and the Finn gets the better. Angra Bauer-Colonia was the winning score in the early stages of the Tour, and then Colonia winning in 2012 as then Legkov in 13, and since then it's all been about Martin Jonsrud-Sundby, who has also won today. He's got 2 Tour victories and is well on his way to his 3rd.
Quite amazing, and big names. Devon Kershaw there, the damage done to him, 426 behind. It's quite huge. Big names in skiing were suffering today. Were pushed so hard early on, it knocked them out of their stride, their race plan maybe. Just 66th position, Andrew Musgrave at the last checkpoint, just under 7 minutes behind. Andrew Young 69th, 7:31 behind. Yeah,
so we would have expected a little more from him, but disappointment trying to find out what's going on in the British camp at the moment. Well, there you see Petter Northug, 69 stages, 30 podiums. That's a very good percentage with 13 wins in all.
Quite amazing, and one of the very few athletes that's been here since the beginning, 10 years ago. There's not many more, confirm that later, but yeah, he's done 10 years with every single stage. He knows what's coming next.
Chernozov for Russia. Schneider of Switzerland across the line, but a good 1.5 kilometers, perhaps even 2 kilometers behind the race winner, Martin Jonsrud-Sundby, who just got quicker and quicker as the race went on. And just under that 1 hour 15 minute time for the 30 kilometers. This was the sprint for 2nd and 3rd. Northug winning that one ahead of his teammate Tonseth. So again, a Norwegian whitewash. Polteranen just couldn't quite get in there. And Yevgeny Belov lost contact long before the start of the final lap. So good crowds, and they've got another day of racing to look forward to. Hopefully the weather will improve. We'll have a bit of sunshine, would be nice. Cold temperatures tonight, a necessity more than anything else, just to harden up the tracks again before tomorrow's pursuit races. And an easier day in terms of getting skis perfect. I know that a lot of athletes today struggled with the wax, the perfect wax, never easy in around 0 degree temperatures for classic, but just skating tomorrow, and that should be, well, an interesting spectacle on the same track. 15 kilometers for the men, 5 kilometers for the women. Well, here comes Federico Pellegrino, the man in the red bib, the winner of the sprint yesterday, the leader of the Tour before the start of today. But he has gone from one end of the leaderboard back down to the other end. Will he hang around to the next sprint? He may well do. He could do with the points. But the day belonging to Martin Jonsrud-Sundby of Norway. Perilat across the line, and number 38, you may recognise Annie Musgrave. Disappointing day. Could have been the skis, could have been his health. He's after a really good start to the season, seems to have dropped away a little bit. So they'll be trying to work out what they can do to get a bit of spark into his body. He loves the Tour de Ski. He will not pull out unless he is pulled out, and I can't see that happening.
Exactly, no, and a little ill health at Toblach just before Christmas, which has set him back.
Well, Andrew Young just across the line as well, so that's the first two British competitors. Musgrave 7:27 behind. He was doing well up to 20 Ks, but then he lost as much time in the last 10 as he did in the first 20. And Andrew Young 8:10 behind, but he's now an out-and-out sprinter, so he's done well to complete the 30 kilometres. And the good news, really, Mike, is that the injury he did to himself yesterday hasn't proved too damaging.
Yeah, so pleased. Such bad luck yesterday for Andrew Young. Looking so good, second fastest time overall at these races, and then getting caught up on a piece of rope from the advertising, which pulled him out of the race. Well, that's fatigue for Florian Notz.
.50 kilometres, the longest World Cup distance, unless of course they go and use one of the Loppet races, which they have done in the past, but really the classic 50 kilometre is that up in Holmenkollen. So a 30 kilometre at this stage of the season is still a tough test. And tomorrow, of course, they race again, but it's 10 kilometres, so a third of the distance. It's in freestyle, so it will use slightly different muscle groups. Well, there's the programme for tomorrow, and the ladies' 5 kilometre is on Eurosport 2, so if you want to catch up on that and the progress of the likes of Theresa Johaug, do tune into Eurosport 2 for that event at 12:15. Ski jumping, of course, on the programme as the tournée comes to its conclusion. Innsbruck, of course, hosting tomorrow's competition. David Goldstrom is there in Austria. Don't think he'll be climbing too high up the Bergisel, but he'll be enjoying the atmosphere without a doubt. And then a roundup at the end of the day of all the winter sports action. We're still waiting for the standings to come through. I think we can say without a shadow of doubt that Martin Jonsrud Sundby is the leader, the new leader of the Tour de Ski, and he's back in the red bib, and he may well stay in red all the way through to the top of the Alpe Chemise and make it 3 successive Tour de Ski victories.
I'm just trying to do my calculations. I think he's going to have a lead of up 50 seconds, maybe even more, because he was getting a lot of those early 15 seconds as opposed to Northug, who was picking up at the start of those on-track bonus seconds, was only picking up 4s, 5s and 6s. So we'll have to wait and see the final calculation.
Well, it's rather strange that 7 editions of the Tour, and we'd never had a Norwegian winner since then. They've won every single one, men and women, so they've got 4 victories under their belts. Looks as though they could get another 2 this year. And Colonia, of course, Sundby, of course, if he wins this year, will become the first man to win 3 in a row.
Quite some an incredible feat, and he's got the form right now to indicate that might be possible, but still plenty of way to go. Florian Notz looked completely and utterly exhausted.
3 long-distance classic races this year, and Sundby's won all of them. Mike, in terms of VO2 and capacity, the classic really takes more out of you than the skating, so no surprise to see Sundby being able to break away. Easier to break away in the classic than it is in the freestyle.
I think it is. It's unusual. We don't see those breaks normally in a mass-start competition in modern cross-country racing in the men's field. Yes, it happens in the women, but and yes, sucking in what 200 litres a minute of the thinner air up here. It's all about his amazing engine.
So that is all for now. We'll be back with the Tour de Ski tomorrow. The women racing a short, sharp 5 kilometres, but on the back of 2 consecutive days of racing. The men going over 10 in the freestyle technique, and it's a pursuit race, so it will be Martin Jonsrud Sundby, the winner of today, who gets underway first. We'll see you then. Thanks for your company today. Hope you join us tomorrow.